Is it Babkar Baum? You know, yeah. We have the Babkar Baum and Bintanjai saga. Very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. And this why at one time I gave an unsolicited advice to the Inspector General of Police to say that he should be very careful in decisions that he takes, especially decisions that appear to be of a political nature or affect politicians or decisions that issues leading to that decision have some political undertone. And I advised him, although he didn't solicit the advice, that he should be careful about that. He should be careful because he is the brother-in-law of the president. And any actions taken by him that looks or gives the impression of being biased would just be attributed to the fact that he's doing so because he's the president's brother-in-law, for honoring our invitation. And may I also say Ramadan Mubarak to all of you, and I hope that you will all really be performing a very important ritual in the Islamic religion. And in like manner, understand tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday is the beginning of fasting for the Christian community. So these two holy, in fact, these two biggest religions in the world, they are fasting, converging at the same time, affords all of us as Gambians to surrender ourselves to our Creator. We constantly in supplication, asking for His mercy and for His protection for our country. So, really, this month is very important to all of us. Now, gentlemen of the press, last month we just celebrated our 60th birthday as a nation, the Diamond Jubilee. It was an event that called not only for celebrations, but also for reflections. An event that called for stock taking of our condition as we are, to take stock of the situation of our economy, our health, service delivery, the education, agriculture, and many other things. Because the weight of any nation, the power of any nation, does not depend on its population. It depends on its economic power. How rich and how powerful the country's economy is. That is what really measures up on our power as a nation. Now, according to what we have in government circles, is that the growth rate of the economy of this country would be about 6% annually. It's a very ambitious projection based on what assumption, I do not know, but then realistically, the projection probably should be between 3 and 4% annual rate of our annual growth rate. any country's development or the growth of country's development is really based on its budget. How has our budget tried to address the inflation in this country in order to improve the standards of our people? How are we doing with the cost of living so that people can live and lead respectable life? How much is food security, not to talk of food sovereignty? Food security, how much is food security available to us? Are we food secure? Now, how much are we fighting against corruption? These are issues that really, or some of the issues that really impinge on the economy of any country. Now, if you look at our large budget allocations and see whether we as a nation are really moving in the right direction, whether we as a nation really controlling of our economy in the right direction in order to attain the projection by government of 6%, as by government, and we probably believe that should be 3 to 4%. I think the experts, some of our experts here, will attest to the fact that there is a report that the economies of most of the countries their growth will be sluggish, and in fact, some of them it will contract. And these are very resourceful countries which are endowed with enormous resources. With us, we are not endowed with any resources, and what our budget shows is that instead of investing in the areas that will advance the growth of the economy, we are investing in areas that are not in any way advancing the growth of the economy. The allocations attest to this. President's office, you have $1 billion. Minister of Foreign Affairs, about 1.9 billion, about 2 billion in fact. Finance, 2 billion. The centralized services, 1.6 billion. And centralized services are really supposed to take care of expenditures for lubricants, petrol, fuel, and so forth, as well as purchase of vehicles. But instead of this being part of these centralized services, you have 300 million, approximately 300 million allocated for fuel and lubricants, 800 million allocated for purchase of vehicles. And these are not the productive sectors of the country. Now you take agriculture, 95 million. Fisheries, 56 million. Now, you take the allocations in agriculture, fisheries, youth and sport, and tourism, they are less than the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And these are the productive sectors of the country. The total allocation to these four important sectors is about 1.1 billion, whereas for Ministry of we're saying allocations to areas that are non-productive. apart from the misprioritization of the resources of this country, and I will say resources, I mean the finances of this country, is the very deep-seated corruption in this country. We've seen that government is engaged in a lot of road constructions, and these are the areas where corruption is really embedded, because the prices, the contract prices are inflated, and they are not only inflated, but sometimes also you do have substandard work. If not substandard work, delayed work. Now, when the president visited the Faraba campus, he found that the work was far below the period. I mean, the work was certainly not being done in accordance with the schedule, and he expressed his disappointment. But that is all we have. I am sure that contract must have a clause when there is delay, what happens on the part of the party who caused the delay. Why is that not invoked? Should the president just say that, look, okay, we reschedule it, and then within that rescheduled period, we see it completed, so that the now rescheduled period time would be December this year. But I am surmising that the president didn't take the drastic action that is needed, because things must have happened in the past. Compromised. When any leader is compromised, or when the government is compromised in any way, these are the type of behaviors, these are the type of reactions that we do have. I think any serious government would definitely have summoned immediately the contractors to State House, and President should not just stop at expressing a disappointment, but should also tell the Gambian people what directives he has given for this contract to be completed, not by December, but within a period of 12 months. Because so disappointment was expressed because the installmental payments that probably due to the contractors must have all been fully met. If they were not met, there would have been no queries by the government for delays. But this is the type of things that happen. These are the results of compromised governments. These are the results on things on the part of a compromised government. We learned recently that the Minister of Finance signed a loan of $2 billion in December. Now, we are complaining, we are crying that there is already $118 billion loan that the Gambia has to pay. And to repay that, we are using $11 billion for the debt services. And I'm sure you all agree with me that $11 million injected in agriculture will really do well for this country, will do well for our economy, and do well for our food security. Now, my calculation with the 1.8 billion, with 118 billion plus this, that is 20 billion. I have absolutely no doubt that if there is proper auditing of the activities and transactions carried by this government, you will find that there are several hidden loans that have not been disclosed to the people of this country. They are sitting on them because they do not want to expose how much damage they have done to this country. Of course, we've seen across the border what has happened. Since the change of government, some areas of government activities were audited, and it was discovered that several billion francs, CFA francs or euros, were hidden debts. They were never disclosed by the government, and the same thing, I can tell you, is probably happening in this country. Now, and I wonder why the Minister of Finance has not really disclosed this loan. For all I know, it was not indicated in the budget speech. I don't know if you are following. It was not mentioned in the budget speech, and I believe the budget speech really carries everything, or should carry everything that affects the economy of our country, and certainly these $2 billion with some sort of crisis are not, and are the ones that really can boast of the fact that all their activities are being financed from their resources. Now, these projections are based on what? Our growth is based on what? On loans. And we are not even sure whether the loans that you may anticipate that you would get, you may not get it. When you anticipate getting $5 billion in loans, and it ends up being $3 billion or $2 billion. Grants may not also all be realized, and of course taxes also, and the taxes are also based on projections that so much will be collected in taxes, and all this added up together is what is taken to project as an assumption to project our economic growth. And these assumptions, which really do not rhyme in with reality. The corruption that we've been talking about, we find it in appointments, we find it in promotions, we find it manifesting itself in other ways. Now, what we have been faced with is our national assets have been gradually sold. And now when I say sold, I say so with great caution. An asset that is given away for 30 years, and what you benefit from it is just 20%, and the rest 80% goes to whom you call your partner. That is as good as selling, because for 30 years, when you don't have any control over your assets, that is as good as selling it. The bridge, which is also mortgage, although they say it's recycled, is also virtually giving away $100 million for a period of 15 years. We are giving it away. It does not enough to the benefit of the country. And you know what? We are having promises of having new roads. And what is happening is Afrimex Bank is providing the loan, is providing the money. No, GRA is not a government. So GRA itself cannot take a loan. So what they are doing is to pass this through the central bank. And then, of course, they issue bonds for this to be put in the market, in the financial market, in order to raise, I think it's about 75 million. I'm not too sure about that, about $75 million. So you can see how manipulative the government is. It's GRA that is the beneficiary. GRA cannot take a loan. GRA cannot take a loan. So use government institution to take it, and then you have a bank here through which they will do the exchange of the dollars, the fixed rate and so forth. And all these are avenues through which palms will be anointed, palms will be oiled. So another avenue for corruption. Now, when I talk about giving you asset away for 30 years, I'm referring specifically to the Gambia Ports Authority. Most of us know that when the Gambia Ports Authority was established in the 1970s, from being Marine Department to a fully fledged state corporation, it was doing very well. Its first managing director, I believe, was Captain Seller. Captain Seller did a magnificent job as managing director of Gambia Ports Authority, and others came on. The Alumbuj, the Pachans, the Modigays, the Jaganas. They came in, even Jiba, in Jammeh's time, and did wonderful work. In those days, goods destined for Guinea-Bissau were brought through the ports of Banjul. Goods destined for Mali were brought to the port of Banjul. And of course, the activities, the transit activities, was really serving our country in a lot of ways. Because it's just not port charges that we are doing, but then vehicles hired from here and taking goods to Guinea-Bissau, to Mali. Now, if you have 10 bicycles, you want to ship to Mali, you have to take it to Dakar and have it landed in Dakar. What has happened? Is it that we have lost that quality of managers, the Pachams? Have we lost those qualities, quality managers? To the extent that we cannot operate our port in a way that will be of benefit to this country, do we have to give it away for free? Because I say for free, because 30 years of a very strategic national asset given to a foreign-owned company really shows a lot or speaks a lot about the capability and capacity of the management. How many studies do we have on the expansion of the Gambia Ports project. Is it not one of those studies that led to half-die being moved? Huge amount of money paid as compensation to residents of half-die. I think the only structure that was saved in that area is the mosque, the Imam Muhammad Amin Bas Mosque. That was only structure that was saved. Having spent all that money, and it was done on studies that were validated, why can't you implement that decision? Why do you give it away to a company elsewhere? I'm not against private companies or foreign companies coming to the Gambia. I want them to come. I want them to come and invest. But our strategic national asset, I think, should be in the control of the Gambians. I think when government wants to have resources to develop the Gambia Ports, to develop our harbor, I think they should have really organized a conference of Gambian entrepreneurs. And I believe they have sages, they have economic experts, have financial gurus in this country who will come out with suggestions that will ensure that Gambians, if they do not have full control or majority shares in the Gambia Ports Authority, they will certainly have shares that is appreciable. But to give everything away and not affording Gambians the opportunity to really buy it, I think, or to invest in it, I think that's really doing a great deal of service to our country and putting our national assets in the hands of foreigners. After we have seen how Gambia Commercial and Development Bank was government owned, today you have a lot of Gambians who have shares in Trust Bank, Gambia Commercial and Development that end up being Trust Bank. Could such a scheme not have been worked out so that with the Gambian people participating, there could be ways and means of raising funds to really develop the Banjul port to standards that meets every international standards. But again, this government certainly does not think in a way that will help put the economy of this country in the hands of Gambians. And I think when we come in, we'll make sure that the economy of this country is put in the hands of the Gambians. We hear Gamcell and Gamtel also are likely to be sold. If you go across to Nigeria, you'll find that the telecommunication industry is completely in the hands of Nigerians. Why can't we do the same? If you want to sell Gamcell or Gamtel, why don't you give it to Gambians? Why try to make arrangements with people from God knows where and taking these very important national assets? Now, sometimes this government is just one that gets involved in pretensions. As the Wallachs would say, Gisma. So that people say, oh yes, they are doing well. About a few days ago, we had the chairman of Social Security and Finance Corporation reveal what this government has done. The loans that we are contracted to purchase those buses, we are not with the Gambia, with the GTSC. They were the Social Security loaned the government of the Gambia. And you can see that the government is trying to pass on those loans to the Gambia Transport Services. Yes, Gambia Transport Services is responsible for provision of public transportation in this country, but they do so within their limits. If they do not have the financial backing, the financial backbone to do so, I don't think they will get involved in it, because the profits that they should realize would not be. They would not have they would certainly do not have the financial backbone. But government funds it, I tell you, and I tell you this with a high degree of certainty. Government funds that project because Carnifing Municipal Council was introducing the urban transport services, urban bus services. They say we'll preempt them because their target was to do it September last year. That was the target of the Carnifing Municipal Council. So they say, look, we'll just sweep the carpet under them. We'll get Social Security to give money to buy buses, and we say we did it. And now they are reneging on that agreement. But of course, it's a government that is led by deceit, a government that really deceives people. This is how they do things. I think really the most honorable thing would be for the Minister of Finance to find the ways and means of repaying this loan to Social Security. And mark you, these are the retirees, the pensioners' funds. These are funds that belong to the Gambian pensioners. Those funds should be invested in ventures that will benefit the pensioners. You cannot take pensioners' funds, put it in this type of enterprise, and then you start arguing that you are responsible or that one is responsible. So there is a high risk of the Gambian pensioners losing a very significant part of their contribution to the funds that Social Security operates. But I mean, a government that sits at attires and then say, boy, finally, what are you definitely? This is the type of decision they take. And not in the interest of the Ghanaian people. Now, and I'm not sure really how much the president, whose special project was this, I'm not sure how much thought he gave to the pensioners. I'm sure whose monthly pensions, I do not think have been increased for the past years. Because I'm sure if they did, there would have been announcements of it. There might have been announcements, which I didn't, but I doubt if there was any. So the protection of the pensioners' funds should be very paramount with this government, because it was one of the issues that came out in the Ghana Commission, that how Yahya Jammeh, dipped into his hands into these institutions. So this should really have been very clear to them that he shouldn't really get involved in that. Now, there are a lot of acts of impunity that are taking place. Currently, we have the is it Babkar? Is it Babkar Bahum? Yeah. We have the Babkar Bahum and Bintanjai saga. Very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. And this is why at one time I gave an unsolicited advice to the Inspector General of Police to say that he should be very careful in decisions that he takes, especially decisions that appear to be of a political nature or affect politicians or decisions that issues leading to that decision have some political undertone. And I advised him, although he didn't solicit the advice, that he should be careful about that. He should be careful because he is the brother-in-law of the president. And any actions taken by him that looks or gives the impression of being biased would just be attributed to the fact that he is doing so because he is the president's brother-in-law. And this might be one of those cases. I do not really buy what I see in the social media that probably the first lady was involved. I do not buy that. Because sometimes people just do things and you say doing so will really please Mr. X or Mr. Y. When I say what Mr. Barrow did was outrageous, was unacceptable. You do not insult a whole community. And the Inspector General of Police said that he is satisfied with his apology. That is not what should be the position of the Inspector General of Police. You know, Mr. Barrow, the statements he made are seditious. They are seditious. And because any statement that tends to raise disaffection or discontent amongst the inhabitants of the Gambia is seditious. Inspector General of Police, I ask you to arrest Mr. Barrow, subject him to proper interrogation, read the whole article, and see whether that statement is not likely to cause disaffection or discontent among the people of Kia. It is seditious. We cannot hide behind an apology when a person commits a crime. You cannot hide behind that. I urge you to do so, to show fair-handedness. And Bintanjai, as a Kianka, has the right to say, look, you do not condone this type of statement because it's a statement that can cause civil strife in that community. If some Kianka boys go out and physically attack Barrow, what would you say? Are you going to charge him for assault when he has already insulted my grandmother, my grandfather, my father, my uncle? Let us be even-handed in the discharge of our duties. IG Toure, I'm telling you, look at section 52 of the Criminal Code. Ask your legal advisors to advise you on section 52 of the Criminal Code whether this statement uttered, whether they were written by Babukat Bahum, whether they are not seditious. If they are not, then I think sedition would have another meaning that the law does not provide for. And I want all you to tell you that you have absolutely no right to accept his apology because he did not offend you. It is not you, he directly says that, not you. So you are not the one to accept the apology. If anything, it is the people of Kia that voted against Barrow's candidates because they were the ones that were addressed by that very seditious statement, things that can erupt to violence. You are not the ones addressed. Those who voted against Barrow, and they were people that he considers as ungrateful. You cannot accept the apology. It is those offended who that can accept the apology. Your duty now is to put in motion a proper investigation. That is what your duty is, and send the file to the Attorney General, and we will be watching. But that issue has not been limited to Binta. She has been transferred to, I believe, Kauru, somewhere in the province. Yes, any officer, any serving officer can really be transferred to any duty station. But the circumstances under which this lady has been transferred to this provincial station is meant to punish her for standing up with her community, for standing up with people who think rightly. And that is wrong. That is misuse of power. That is misuse of your office. If you had done it under other circumstances, nobody will query. But under these circumstances, no. You do need to punish her. And she doesn't deserve to be punished. The person who should be punished is bound. And this issue that is taking place, this transfer, other people who have been identified to be in the same circle with Peter Jai are now being taken to provincial stations, and some to police posts and police stations that are far below their ranks. Say yes, what do you say? I'll break the Kabudu here. And I tell you, gentlemen of the press, one of the people who has been threatened with transfer is my son-in-law, because they know that he is Darboe's son-in-law. Very efficient officer, well educated. He has been involved in security work outside of this country. Very competent. But because he was a Senator Darboe's son-in-law, that these UDP guys, we must get rid of all of them. But this is not what we have bargained for. President Barrow, this is not what we have bargained for. In 2016, we took away Jammeh from State House because we want a society, want a country where people really get what they deserve, meritocracy. That is what we want in this country. Not people in services, promotions, transfers, and appointments, services being based on one's political coloration. I want to urge IG to really reconsider Ms. Jai's posting, because we should not punish her for really saying that, gentlemen, you shouldn't insult me. I come from here. Don't insult me. Another happening in the government, which is a clear violation of our laws and the Constitution, is NPP's former, how do they call it, whether director, and officer in charge of research and so forth, Kemo Conte. I know, I'm sure some of you know him. You know Kemo, when he was in the executive of the NPP, he was appointed to the Public Service Commission. And I raised the issue that the law prohibits that. And he immediately resigned from his membership of the executive of the NPP. But, you know what happened? After that, he was appointed as deputy chairman of GRTS. Deputy chairman of GRTS. And the Constitution provides that you cannot be a member of the Public Service Commission and be a member of the governing body of a public enterprise. And GRTS is a public enterprise. But you know, these people, they just violate the law as they go along. They don't care. Because you want to satisfy, you want Mr. Conte to have additional earnings. You appoint him as deputy chair of GRTS, while he's also serving as a member of the Public Service Commission. And you know what? No one can be appointed to the governing body of any public enterprise. You cannot be appointed there by the president, except on the advice of the Public Service Commission. So he's a member of the Public Service Commission, now advising the president to appoint him to GRTS. What an anomaly. What an anomaly. So these are government, his government is just not misprioritizing things, but also doing things that the Gambian people have fought against from 1996 to 2016, when they finally succeeded. And we see that rarely is said again. Now, talking about Gambian people fighting for a cause, talking about that, we cannot live here without talking about the efforts of His Excellency Ibn Chambers for a new constitution. I applaud him. I pay special tribute to this gentleman who has shown great interest in our country and the democratic governance, even before this time. I know he was involved with the Gambia. Now, his efforts, I think, have been frustrated by President Barrow. What stops Barrow to adopt the people's draft, bring it to the National Assembly? And if they have any grounds with any provision of the 2020 draft, then bring it to the floor of the National Assembly. That has always been our position, that whatever changes you want to make to the 2020 draft, come with it to the National Assembly. And if you are able to convince the Assembly that that changes should be done to any particular provision, let it be. But can't go out there, sit there, and believe that you can draft any document and push it down the throat of the Gambian people. Well, United Democratic Party may agree, but not under my leadership. Because I want a constitution for the Gambia, but not any constitution. And my thinking, because if I say not under my leadership, I know that the thinking of the United Democratic Party is that the 2024 draft, Barrow's draft, should not be the one that should be presented to the National Assembly. You have, is it not time that we do away with nominated membership of the National Assembly? Now, he is trying to increase the number of nominated members in the National Assembly. I think from 5 to 9. But not only that, but also he can dismiss you. Because the Yakumba Jaite, under Jammeh's constitution, as bad as it is, protects National Assembly members from being really thrown out of the assembly for no just cause. So because of the Yakuba case, he says, look, I am going to put this provision in this constitution so that I nominate you and I tell you, look, go to the National Assembly and say A, B, C, D, because that is what I want. If you don't say it, I revoke your appointment. Is that what Gambians want? Is that not the executive interfering in the legislature? Where is the separation of powers? Where you put in separation of powers? The whole chapter 5 on leadership and integrity is taken out. But it doesn't surprise me. You know why? The Anti-Corruption Act that was assented to in January this year. I think it's 30th January this year. There is a section in that act that says that allegations of corruption from 1917 from 2017 to the date that he signed the Anti-Corruption Act cannot be subject of investigation. Fighting corruption, and you put that in the law, in Anti-Corruption Act, and then put in the Constitution that when you leave office as president, or when your minister leaves office, he will not disclose, or he cannot be forced to disclose his assets. And it is between the period that you are a minister and that you exist that you have the chance to really be engaged in corrupt practices. That's the time that you make deals in the contracts, in procurements, and all those things. And then you say, no, you should not. And you want that constitution to be presented to National Assembly? Manekida 5 for the Gambians here? No, really. Really, it's taking Gambians for granted. It's really taken for Gambians for granted. And I just want to say shortly on that United Democratic Party, we want a constitution, but we do not want any constitution. The 2020 draft constitution is the one that has been the subject of considerable discussion, broadly, in the Gambia and outside of the Gambia. All sectors of the society, the Gambia Press Union, the Bar Association, Teachers Union, women, political parties, all have been involved in really contributing their ideas to the 2020 draft. Whereas the 2024 draft was Jammeh and his cabinet. Barrow and his cabinet. They are the only, it was only their thoughts that were put in that. When that draft was before it was gazetted, it was never presented to the Gambian people to discuss it and to say, well, this is what I feel about clause 1. This is what I feel about clause 13. They took us for granted and took it there. And they think that they can blackmail some Gambians. No. Our position is 2020 draft. And the argument that they make that, but a draft that has been rejected, how can you bring it to the National Assembly? Who says you cannot bring it? I want them to show me anywhere in the standing orders of the Gambia or in the constitution of the Gambia that a measure that has been defeated by the National Assembly cannot be brought back to the Assembly. A measure that has been defeated cannot be brought in the same session in which it was defeated, but not another session. So this is our position on the draft constitution, and of course also there are a lot of I don't know whether I should say debate, but there are a lot of views, different views have been expressed about that term and so forth. The constitution, current constitution, does not provide for that term. Absolutely. But men are judged by their words. In 2016, 2016, before President Barrow went to Mali, when well-wishers were coming to meet him at Brufut Heights, he did make a statement that yes, Gambians must now realize that no president can really go back to his office if the Gambians reject him at the election. The Gambians' power is manifested, that they are the people who have the power to change the government, and is manifested in the 2016 elections. There can be no doubt about that. And he also said, look, from now on, no Gambian will serve as president of this country for more than 2 terms. And I believe no president, that includes him. So if there is no provision in the Constitution, your word at that time, address your well-wishers, that no person will serve president of this country for more than 2 terms. I think, Mr. President, you should abide by that, and that should be, that should be a moral code that should really, guide you. But of course, he has a choice to really do what is expected of him as per his own declaration. But if he does not, I think the Gambian people will get together and vote against him, so that the 3rd term that he's talking about, he would not have a 3rd term. And so, also, when he does not have a 3rd term in office, then the party that he wants to save, will die in his infancy. So, gentlemen of the press, I want to thank, I think I've been talking too long, so I just want to thank you for honoring our invitation, and hopefully we'll meet soon. Well, now one last point. In my congratulatory letter to the President, I did say that in the next couple of days, he will be called upon to appoint a new chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission. I believe the current chairman, who appears to have overstayed, will vacate office in February. On Friday. There would be no issue of a renewal. So, Mr. President, I just want to repeat my appeal. But then, with this slant, the 2020 draft does provide for qualifications of chairmen of independent institutions. I believe also your draft also has a similar provision, and that is to say that the chairman of independent institutions like Human Rights Commission, Independent Electoral Commission, must be judges of the Supreme Court, or a person, or a retired judge, or a person qualified to be a judge of the Supreme Court. Mr. President, if you believe in your 2024 draft, please look for a judge of the Supreme Court, a retired judge, or a person qualified to appoint a judge of the Supreme Court, appoint him as chairman. Don't appoint someone who does not have that qualification. Because there is a deeming provision that the Independent Electoral Commission or the existing institutions will continue to be the institution as if they were appointed under the Constitution that we expect to come into force. So you wouldn't have any deeming provision. So I ask you, Mr. President, that there are judges who are competent, who are honest, who are sincere, who are patriots, to show us that you really, if you want your own constitution, please act now and appoint a judge as chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission. I thank you all. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much, President. Members of the press, we have just announced with the chair, we just listened to a wide-ranging rendition of the situation of the Gambia as of today. The party leader has touched on corruption, touched on integrity, leadership, touched on a wide range of topics that are of paramount importance to the country and the way forward. We now open the floor for questions from members of the press. Please remember that before you ask your question, you mention your name and the organization you represent, and make the question as short as possible. Thank you.
Okay, Darboe. Okay, we'll see when we can stop. We'll see when we can stop. We'll see when we can stop.
First question, please. Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, Honorable. Thank you very much for that deliberation. My name is Darboe. I work for the Family Network. I have two questions concerning the electoral schedule. The first question is to understand during the consultation recently, ideas, you had a crossroad with President Barrow.
Sorry.
It is important that you had a crossroad with President Barrow regarding the defense of the draft constitution. I would like you to give more details about what it is was pertaining to the draft constitution. My second question is you talk on the government need to invest in agriculture, carrots, energy, and also education. What will the UDP government do to ensure that they invest in these very important sectors without heavily relying on donor funding?
Without
heavily relying on donor funding.
On donor funding. Okay, fine. Thank you, Mr. Mane. My meeting with President Barrow, my consultation with President Barrow, was a closed door consultation. Our aides were not even available with us. So I think it will be indiscreet of me to really discuss what took place at that consultation. If that was to happen, it wouldn't be a closed door. It will be open. So I don't think I will act, in good faith. It will be indiscreet of me to say, well, this is what he said, this is what I said, this is what I said. Before I went there, everybody knew that we are talking of the 2020 draft. Everybody knew that. And also, everybody knows that he wants the 2024 draft. So that is to the extent I can say. But I cannot say that we discussed this, we discussed that. Yeah. Now, on the issue of how we are going to develop the country, how we're going to develop agriculture without relying on donor funding. Well, donor funding, certainly no government will reject donor funding because that's something that we have been given. What we will be very mindful about is loans. That we will be very, very mindful about. But then donor funding, certainly, no government will definitely give its back to that. And of course, we will look at how much or what should be the allocation of the president's office. Is it necessary to give the president's office $45 million to go on the countrywide tour? Is it necessary? Can you really reduce that and put that amount into into one of these areas? The president's travel abroad, 100 million. Is it really necessary to have that? Especially in this age, where you can have meetings virtual. Do you have to go to every meeting? So you have to make cuts in those areas. Now, vehicles, allocating 800,000 doses. to vehicles. I mean, why would you need so many vehicles? For instance, the OIC, the number of vehicles that was bought for OIC, do you need them for just a 2-day event? But now what do we see? We see that those are the luxury vehicles that the ministers and some other people in government are using. All those are areas that you can make savings on. In fact, lubricants, 300 million, if you reduce the fleet of vehicles, that is government service, you will reduce your expenditure on fuel. And all these are things that you can apply to other sectors, to these important sectors of the economy. See, 2017, when we were in cabinet, Honorable Ahmad Sani presented a budget. When that budget addressed some of these wasteful expenditures, and for that year alone, he was going to make a saving of $300 million. Now, tourism, you have, was it for how many? 54 million for tourism. Now, that 300 million, if you are to take part of it and inject it in the tourism industry, into that industry, tourism industry, the fisheries is about 56 million. If you take part of that 3 million and inject it in the fisheries sector, you really... All these are the things that we are going to look at to make sure that what we've been telling the people since 1996 is what we are now doing. Yeah.
Assuming that the 2026 presidential election are at the corner, assuming that Darboe is the next winner for this election, what will happen to these luxury vehicles, which you believe are not necessary for the government to do it? The country is grappling with debts and loans.
Well, what we will do with it, we'll certainly put it as part of the conference center, and they'll be on hire, even by government, so that you have like the independent ambassador, the VIPs that came here. If you have to use any of those vehicles, government will pay for them, and we'll attach it to the OIC and try to create sovereign fund. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. At least I think that will be. But then, when it comes to that, I have my team of economists, and I'm sure this will be one of the things that we will address it. But I can tell you that we will not leave it ministers to really be using them, because every minister had a roadworthy vehicle by the time that the OIC conference was taking place there. 2, one for the minister and one utility. Why do you have to change all those vehicles? And then, no, it's wasteful.
Yes, your name and your organization.
Good afternoon. I am Asandra for speaker. So you talked about the 2020 draft. It seems it is still alive. So what do you think will be done to make this 2020 draft to the Assembly? And the second question will be, how will you compare the 1997 Constitution to the 2024 draft?
So the
2024 draft. How will you compare them?
Okay, all right. I think your first question is that the 2020 draft is alive.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you do to bring it to the National Assembly? Yeah.
Instead of the 2024.
Yeah. Well, I think that is where the will of the president and his government lies. Their political will to at least be empathic with the Gambian people. To say you have spent $116 million on this draft. I will not allow it to really die. I'm going to take it to the National Assembly. And I'll tell all the members of my party in the National Assembly that they must vote. And I'll make sure that the chief whip really gets all online. And UDP should also, and likewise, the chief whip should make sure that all his members vote in support of the bill promulgating the 2020 draft. Well, it will then not be 2020 draft. It will be a draft with another year on it. It cannot be the 2020 draft. And when it passes, President Barrow, myself, and all those who support the 2020 draft, we go to the Gambian people and tell them, look, you spent your money on this. Vote for it. And it will pass. So that the threshold will be met very easily. Yeah. Now the Barrow draft and the 1997 Constitution. Let me just tell you one thing that is there. Yeah. One thing that is there that makes it different. You see, when the police arrest you by the 1997 Constitution, yeah, you cannot be held. Or you can be held for 72 hours. Yeah, you can be held for 72 hours. That the Barrow government wants that back. Whereas the 2024, the 2020 rather says that not more than 48 hours. So that is addressing and giving cognizance to the liberty and freedom of the individuals. Also, as this said, that the 2024 draft does not make it incumbent on the president or members of the executive ministers to declare their assets on vacating the office. But look at the 1997 Constitution, even though it is in directive principles. It says that I think every 2 years or so, public officers must declare their assets, and they must also declare their assets when they vacate office. But you don't have that you have it in the 2024 draft for judges and members of the National Assembly, but not for members of the executive. So at least that is one difference.
Yes. So now that the government has introduced another draft, that is the 2024 draft. So do you think that if this draft fails, you will have a new constitution?
You will have a new constitution if you, the Gambian people, vote in United Democratic Party at the next election. You will have a new constitution.
Next question, please. Ikata amira ko kita apa production. Mulai aku dari umur ko ada lokal
sorry, phone call the sound name man think about kama.
Well,
Yeah.
Ila dia mo ko ka ko na ro party mo sa ko. Itu kaya na ka ka sa. Abi ni dia ko ko. Adu ga ti ko do fresh la nya ni mo. Foi ko ka bero ka ka. Kuhan sa ko ko na ko ni na ba man. Ani fi dan ya mi ara ba ba. Ka sigidan. Amang na pati ti. Bari ngadi ko poliso. Ya ko ko ni ko. Ko ya ko ma ni ka ko.
Ila jenekar follow elo natara mo ebe menke ka wale be men foka iman lala adun ye opportunity soto pour ka kuke ye boto pour ye ku soto moto imari a long kang nying among ke to nyata kat 1996 first time te lok makilim fala ngana na vo kombe balo do pour mole ka do ba zila ta ka vo ko nimba fala mole ka to dilanda wade wo mani la wodo malla kame won wodo malla nilla tala ma fala le ngamol convince ka ko kame faade wolom ko to nyal wolom banko la na faade na tiling ka sabati de banko kan corruption na sabati de banko ngaw bay banko kan ni mi convince dala de ka to fayne de non sa ko internete be yamira yakini na solo ba ni ko ni ka corruption ole fight o don de ka to faylay o to tel mo mol le kono men lafta ni banko la tinyala so ni lafta banko nyata ay ta ba quand même fo la bu nyano mo ka fo da banko mo banko e betea pour mbele nati nyaade mana be tinyada mbele so ko mo ela principles nyolo ela conviction ni experience ya keni ya ba yo bula e ko badu ngam be men to ngobula dan ko to ngani sodo ko fon le ka na mol ka juduila gavo bari a ni ni ne fo afale na ba ko daga adu be ala dal la menna olong namanya ni nak for kan man be ala lam kan ko kif ko ken fo nga fo mo be tudula naga na bintanjay bintanjay la ko amanke kaf ko police also for be pam politicien tiban pas de politicien tiban o mata même matata te fe wolon ko ebe men kan kantana ebe advantage leta kantan kaw ke man sembo soto men diata nyen sa kela men ye ku ke men ye luatinya ka men sedition wonon ba humti e nyanta ba hum arrest la yakitin kadu ka mo men fo na Gambia luwato as problème onati node kadu ko mol meliano ka ko won ungrateful wonon ka ko imam mola nyenyalo wala wote ungrateful ko ni imang ko kianko de imam mola nyenyalo on kianka jumarlo wolde melialo ka ko wolle man karto fay NPP la candidatole so e bolle nenka what was the problem on that nole banko kan according to law mo mari le nyanta mutla ya charge e manya na binta jaita la ko e ba transfer la kar ko transfer men wala ka ko be kulu kan ay mun ko e ba kulu la men yen na wulula ne bon bota dame yol nen adon ni manke sit ka ko dol mel fana le carte fay kiankolo mel fana le carte fay e be manke mandi ko man sa manke si kude kiankol mel be carte fay yol nen nata nun ka foko NPP la gagné da jedo e be kiankol be jay la de ban hane ame jay ayenen kaf ko almam buka mola ni nyalon aye ole buka mo tentu mwaka ku kendo ke buka tentu no yo fo wok mome ya lon kaf ko kuma ke jaw balo mo do ko hey kana nyinke de e bentel nenen kan men dia tan no mode yole ke e ko hani mun ya ne te bo fola danga mra police nyata men kala ya fo kam binta njaay da ñi men fo de afan su mo no wadi de ñi manke police la kuma de bari e koy batala e be sembo jay la kan ka ko lam place yo di se ku kada ya transfer nyinde apart from any other thing ngamira human rights that it may mafka walom de but it may involve some human rights issues ni lam quality mel ya lon ka foko nyanda ngang haklo tuito kadu aka menke aka kolle manende aka banko me yalum ka ko telebe marlo la ni leka pile of demande ye fenke yavko ni made mo dictator de abukala dictator abukaka lunkile de kulle kake wala ka lanyo ka wala ka lanyo ka yanda ka ko made mo dictator de adu president Barrow mama la ka ko nga dictator kele jan o bondi jando be janda ka dictator kele bo jando e fanena ke dictator di mamira te fang lafta wala mamira lafta mo ya fo e mo dictator de ba fa la sidi ngamen fo lon ka ko sidi touré dindi ni aya samba dame aya murunna aya fen kala parato abe do ko ya sol la nyento de na faylan kay ko isi haklot bake itla police bata mal la nyame surtout ko me ya lon ka ko isamira ka ko politiko ba ko kanya manya be manya ke e ba fula ka ko arma baro muy bitannati abare muso be futu kay wala ne be munyi manya ke adu ye fantan kandi wala na ayamar wala adu hani bi ba ayamar la wala aya fantan kandi wala
we're going to entertain 6 questions. Before I ask 6 questions, please from all the people who ask questions. But we'll take one last question from lady.
You emphasized a lot about the national asset. Why do you want it to be in the hands of Gambians rather than foreigners?
Well, simple answer. I want to be in the hands of the Gambian because I want the Gambian to control the economy of this country. That's all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Just give.
Pastor Nepal? We'll take the last one. Pastor Nepal.
Okay, good afternoon once again. Honorable.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Honorable. Once again, thank you so much for the patience. You talk so much on corruption. Also, evidence out there. I believe that the coming government, if it is good, you have a lot of work. What will be your policy to ensure that corruption will be a thing of the past in this country?
We will not only engage in civic education to inculcate in the Gambians the virtues of honesty, the virtues of integrity, but will also try Gambians to understand how much damage corruption does to the country. Corruption destroys the economy of a country just as cancer destroys tissues, human tissues. That's what it does. And we will not only do that, we will try to introduce, in fact, if not a question of try to introduce, it will be part of the curriculum in the schools. From primary school, people will be exposed to the virtues of integrity. And that is why the deletion of leadership and integrity, chapter 5 of from the 2020 draft, the Barrow draft, deletes that's why it should not even be looked at. And then, of course, we will be very, very strict. There would be no sacred cows. There would be no sacred cows. If a founding member of the party holds an office, a public office, and is found to be involved in corruption, and we will deal with the person severely, because one is not only violating the laws of the country, but also our own core values. What made us talk together from 1996 up to the time that person is taking office. Those core values, when he goes against it, certainly there would be no issue of masala. There would be no issue of masala at all. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leader. I also want to thank ladies and gentlemen of the press and all the guests here. I look forward to the next couple of